So it is our very, very pleasure to have with us today Hope Bradberry, who chairs the San Miguel de Allende chapter of the Democrats Abroad, an organization whose mission is to work in a nonpartisan manner to help overseas voters register and annually request their ballots. I think this is a very, very important position to have. And also, of course, it's a pleasure for us to know that we have someone here who can help us with all of this that can get very complicated. And there are so many differences between one state and the other. So she'll help us discuss all of the various methods that the residents can use to return their ballots safely. And that there are many unique challenges that we face this year. So please help me give a very warm midday Rotary welcome to Hope Bradberry. Thank you, Hope.
Hi. Thank you so much, really, for inviting me today. I really appreciate it. I do have a slideshow, so I think Ron is going to be putting that up for us. So let me escape my, hold on. Okay, so November is now, as far as overseas voters are concerned. I'm going to be going through some pretty, dry material. Maybe that's why there's only 30 people here. They know this material because I've been promoting it all over the place as much as I can the last few months. But I'll try, just stick with me. And I also hope you will share this material with your friends. In particular, I'm going to be explaining why it is so important for the U.S. citizens in San Miguel and Mexico to vote as an overseas citizen and not request an in-state absentee ballot. And this year is proving the point more than in years past due to the concern of postal mail issues. So I'm starting my slideshow always for San Miguel with a pretty picture of Aldama. And I'm also going to be sharing some statistics with you today. And all of those come from the Federal Voting Assistant Program website. It's fvap.gov. And you can delve into this site and see how they crunch their numbers. It is our go-to site for information on overseas voters. So next slide. So according to FVAP, there are 4.8 million US citizens overseas. 2.9 million of them can vote. Just wait till you see how few do. This does not include the military, which takes it up to 9 million. So next slide. So the same laws that provide our military pathways and rights to vote when they and their families are deployed apply to civilian citizens living abroad. So the law is known as the Uniformed and Overseas Citizen Absentee Voting Act, UACAVA. We love acronyms. It takes you about 6 months to learn what they all mean when you get this position. Anyway, this law is administered by the State Department and has its own program dedicated to voting as the UACAVA voter, and as it is administered by the same program, the Federal Voting Assistance Program. And it was actually signed into law by Ronald Reagan in 1986. And you can see from the slide, it's not as easy just showing up at the polls. There are all these little circles on the side that you have to go through. But let me explain why they're important. Overseas voters have the right to receive their ballots in their email inboxes, by fax in some cases, and of course by mail, 45 days before the election. In many cases, this is a full month before states send their regular absentee ballots to voters. And the Voting Act took into account that overseas voters need more time to return a ballot. Receiving the ballot by email eliminated the lag time in mailing to overseas voters, and all states will send a ballot by email. Overseas voters can, this is the second point, in most states, request their ballot by email also, fax and mail, especially if they are already registered to vote. Only 5 states require that the ballot request be mailed. But the fact that so many states allow you to request your ballot by email still speeds up the process even more for people that are overseas. But I will say that most states, or not most states, but a lot of states, if you are not registered, do request you to mail that in. Number 3, overseas voters have a unique right to use the federal write-in absentee ballot should their state ballot not arrive in time to return to the states. This is incredibly important. In-state regular absentee voters do not have such an option. So if you've requested your ballot as an in-state, having it mailed to a relative and they're going to send it down to you and you don't get it, you do not have the opportunity to use the write-in absentee ballot. And it's known by another acronym, which is called the FWAB. And there are only 20 states, but it seems like a lot to me, require that the ballot be mailed back to the local election office. All the rest provide either fax or electronic options to return the ballot safely. And I'm going to make a pitch. If you are in one of those 20 states, and I'll get there in just a second, I would like you to either consider contacting and writing your Secretary of State office and asking them to give electronic options to voters overseas. This would be great if all voters overseas had an electronic option. So these are important reasons why to choose overseas voters. So next slide. So how do you do it? All overseas voters use only one form to register, request a ballot, and change their voting address: the Federal Postcard Application, or FPCA. You see the top of it here in this slide. Even if you've previously requested your ballot through your state's regular absentee voting links, you can send the FPCA and change your status to that of an overseas voter. And when you do, contact your state. You should identify yourself as an overseas voter or a UACAVA voter. If they don't know about this term, don't despair. Ask for a supervisor. Make your position clear as a voter from outside the country. Democrats Abroad SMA recommends the website Vote from Abroad to fill this form out because it's very user-friendly and allows for signatures to be uploaded into the form, which eliminates the requirement for a printer. Some states still do require a wet signature, and we often help people with those, getting them but have to mail those to the states, but most do not. So voters also can go to the fvap.gov site and find a print fillable PDF form that looks like this. But you should do this. What we would love for you to do, oh my gosh, is if you would do this at the beginning of every year. Then you will receive all the ballots for the calendar year. Just mark it as one of your New Year's resolutions. We would love for all voters to get the habit of doing this in January every year. So no last minute scramble to make sure you're gonna get your ballot. So now let's assume you've done all this. You have sent in your form. You have been in contact with your local election official. Very important. All kinds of things can happen and do. We had a couple from New York that worked with us in the winter. In February, they had sent the forms into New York, which is required. And then they called and they said, oh yeah, we got your forms. We just haven't processed them. And no, we don't have your email in the system. And so they sat on the phone with them until they did it. It's that kind of thing. Unfortunately, it happens all the time, and that's an easy case. So it's important for you to be in touch. So you have been, they've told you you're ready. They've processed your form and will be emailing your ballot, and you're sitting here in SMA, twiddling your thumbs, waiting for your ballot to arrive in your inbox. So what next? Next slide, please. This slide is a graphic representation of how states require you to return your ballot. But Texas voters, don't get excited when you see that you can fax. The red is faxing. Your ballot has to arrive 4 days after your fax. So we don't recommend Texas voters to fax their ballots. Like Nori said at the beginning, every single state is different, and it's federalism at its best. So we tell Texas voters still mail in your ballot. So next slide, please. For the unlucky, here are the states that require you mail in your ballot. You will get it by email, and here is something very important. especially for those people that don't like to read the instructions. Read the instructions and follow them, please. Print it, fill it out. Don't just make a check mark when you fill in the oval. Actually get the black pen and mark it all the way in, that kind of thing. Be sure you sign the declaration form, not the ballot, the same way you signed the form when you submitted your FPCA. They do check things like that. You place your ballot in a security envelope, then your declaration page, and the mailing envelope, as is in this slide right now. The mailing envelope template that will come with your ballot and is available with FPA website is postage paid in the US. So it has to get to the US, either through the embassy or through a mail forwarding service. This can be glued to the outside of an envelope. No tape or staples, please. Those get caught in the machines. So this year presents another unique challenge because our consular office remains closed. Many people use that to get their ballots back in the past. So we've arranged for one of our community liaison volunteers with the US Embassy in Mexico City to collect ballots on September 23rd and September 30th at our office on the Ancha de San Antonio, number 19, where we will then DHL them to the embassy. This is exactly what the consular office used to do. They would collect the ballots and DHL them to the embassy, where they'll be placed in the mail pouch to go into the States. Now, the embassy has requested that ballots arrive to them no later than October 2nd. That's 18 days from today. So you need to be ready. Other options are sending it through one of the private mail forwarding services in town. We also would like to recommend you consider using one of their 2-day envelopes. So once it hits the States, it's in 2 days, which costs about 250 pesos. Or using FedEx or a similar service, which can be very expensive, to send directly to your local election official in the States. But here's another one, another but. I hate the buts. Please call your official and ask them which service they will accept. For example, we've had an official that said they will accept FedEx and UPS, but not DHL. So it's best to confirm, if you go that route, what they will accept. To say it's frustrating, yes, it is. So next. So that takes care of the mail-in states. We also have states that accept fax. And we have had a generous offer from Smart Space Hub on Soledad de la Celaya, number 34, to fax for free. They will fax all ballots for free. We're really thrilled they came to us. It's great. There are also a number of websites like Fax Zero that allow you to fax for free, or a small fee if it has more than 3 pages. Faxing is highly recommended for all the states here, but really especially for California and Florida. And I say that because those are the states that have the largest number of ballots requested and returned every year. Next. So finally, we have about half the states that allow you to return your ballot electronically through a portal or email. You are the lucky ones. And if you vote in one of these states, we are aware that this can be proved technically challenging for some of our voters in here in SMA. And we're also here to help those as well. We'd like to try to get our mail-in, people who need help with mail-in. We're going to try to work on that at end of September. So let us get through them first, and then we'll start helping people with the electronic ballots. I mean, we are helping now because some have come out, but still. So next. So you're ready to prepare your ballot. There's some important things to keep in mind so that our ballots can be counted. On this slide, as you can see, notice this slide, 6% of overseas votes are rejected. Now remember how at the beginning of my slides, I said there are 2.5 million voters. You can see here, and this includes military, 655,000 people this is in 2018, by the way, requested their ballots, and 344,000 got them back, which is good. And there's a 53% return rate. we just like there to be a higher number on the front side of that. So there's lots of reasons that a ballot can be rejected. Most common is it is late. Next, the signature does not match, torn or rumpled envelopes, signing the ballot, a big no-no, and not signing the declaration page, a must. Why I go back to saying, read the instructions, read them twice and carefully. Next. And what's really interesting, I thought this was an interesting stat, and they talk about in high obstacle countries. Those are countries typically it has more obstacles to getting your ballot back, but those who received their ballots electronically were more than 3 times likely to vote successfully. Getting that ballot to you electronically so it gets to you quickly and way before the election, that's so important. Okay, so go ahead next. So more than anything, we need voters to be proactive. They need to have a plan. How are they going to print? Where are they going to go to mail or fax? We very much like to help voters. It's our mission to do so, but we also need voters to take responsibility. And of course, use that FPCA form and have your ballot sent electronically. Next, not next, no, sorry, go back. I didn't mean to say next. I was in my head saying next. So you can see from this slide that overseas voters have a pretty dismal voting percentage, 4.7%. This is for our 2018 midterms. We expect higher numbers this year, but it's still far lower turnout than in the States. So it's stateside citizens are 13 times more likely to vote than those citizens that are living abroad. So next slide now. Okay, so in this side, this is only citizens. I think it's really, anyway, I was just researching all this for this talk, and you can see Mexico down kind of towards the bottom with little over 80,000 voters. So there's quite a bit of geographic variation in the proportion of overseas citizens who are aged 18 or older. For instance, 84% of US citizens residing in the UK or residing in Germany are estimated to be 18 or older, whereas only 14% of US citizens residing in Mexico. Going through all their numbers and methodology for producing these numbers can be pretty interesting. And even though many quote that there are 1.5 million US citizens living in Mexico, this government agency really tries to dig deep into figuring out how many voters reside in the various countries. Next. So I'm wrapping up. I do really appreciate that you allowed us to come. Allowed me to come to speak. A primary mission of Democrats Abroad is to work on nonpartisan effort to get out the vote. We want to increase those numbers, have more people vote and the citizens that are living overseas. We help anyone that needs assistance, and I really do appreciate you inviting me to speak today. I'm happy to take questions. Also on this call is...
yes, we do have some questions.
Okay.
For you.
Okay, and I'm going to say that, just a sec, Nori. Barbara Erickson is also here. She's actually SMA and Mexico's Get Out the Vote chair. And if I can't answer something, I may turn to her.
Oh, sure.
That's okay. And I'm going to assume everybody here's already done all this. And it's ready to vote. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
Go ahead.
Wonderful. Well, I didn't mention to everyone that they could ask questions, but this group is very knowledgeable in all of the Zoom matters. So we did get a couple of questions posted in here.
Okay.
As a general question, someone is curious about, do we have knowledge on how many expats are living in San Miguel right now? And that would be, of course, American expats.
Yeah, I don't know. I think with the new census, I'll be really curious because I know they asked me when they came to my door in San Miguel. So with the New Mexican census, I don't know, but I'm curious if the census will show. I don't know.
Wonderful. I hope so too. Yes, I get asked that question a lot as well, coming from the NGO, sector. So I hope we get to find that out. Okay, another question is, someone said that if they filled out an absentee card and they sent it in, can they still vote in person in the States?
If they decide to do that, they should call their election official and tell them that they will be in the US for the election and will not be voting as an overseas voter. They should notify their election official.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, we have another person that says that they faxed their ballot back to California yesterday, and yeah, they're proud of that. But the question is, will they receive a confirmation email, or if their ballot is rejected, will they be notified?
That's the same kind of issue where each county and each election official is different in what they will do. Again, I hate to say this, it's what I say all the time. Please go ahead and contact the election official in a few days and confirm that they got the ballot and that it is accepted. Oftentimes, election officials will try to get hold of someone if their ballot is rejected. For instance, I know people that someone, it was interesting that the gentleman had a trimmer, and so his signature was really bad, and his wife decided to try to do his signature for him, and they called him and said, we can tell this is not his signature. You have to resubmit. So oftentimes they will try, particularly if they have time. So, but I would still recommend please call and double check. Some will, some won't. Sorry.
Wonderful. Another question is, in general, how will folks be able to track their ballots?
Actually, on many state sites, there is an option to track your ballot. You can go through the state site, and even on the Vote from Abroad site, if you go to the state section and scroll down, there's a question, are you registered, which sends you to a state site to see if you're registered, track my ballot. Some states are offering a tracking system. Once it hits the US Postal Service, we won't be tracking here. Like once it goes to the mail pouch in the embassy, they stamp it, they put it in the mail pouch, it's driven up to Brownsville, it's put in the US Postal Service. So it isn't tracked until it goes into the US Postal Service from a barcode on the ballot envelope. Okay.
Okay. Another question is, can we drop off ballots before September 23rd if we have them?
No, because we won't have our office open until September 23rd. And the community liaison volunteer that's when they will be available. So, and it's at 12 o'clock is when we will be opening. You'll be able to drop them off in the days between them, but on the 23rd is when we will start accepting those.
Okay, so please review again how to send the ballot through Democrats Abroad.
Okay, so that is for a mail-in ballot. These are for mail. This is primarily through the mail service. And what we are going to do is we have, as I said, this volunteer, and she's also a voting assistance officer through the State Department, has gotten the certification. On the 23rd and the 30th, we will be sending a DHL box to the Mexico City Embassy to be processed at the embassy and put in their mail pouch. So if you drop it off on the 23rd, and that's at Ancha de San Antonio, number 19, it's in the Los Sueños consignment shop. You go through there, and we have an office to the left in the back. You can drop your ballot off there, and then we will send them DHL to the embassy in Mexico City.
I just posted that address on the chat for everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for giving us that. Let's see. And so, how do you respond about all the chatter about the election being rigged? That is a
thank you so
question.
much. I am going to say I'm working to keep I'm working within the process, and I have faith in the process. And I'm going to say something. Most of the election officials, a huge percentage, practically every election official that we are in contact with in the United States are great people. They really want to help people in their communities and outside overseas voters vote. They really do. And they really, often we're in contact multiple times. We're trying to figure out where somebody's registered. We have people that haven't voted for decades. We're trying to help people in all different ways. And the election officials are really, really good people, and it's their job, and this is their job. And so I really have trust in them. That's what we should do, and help them. That's it. Which one else? Anything else?
I think those are all the questions I have so far. Some good comments from folks saying that, yes, in fact, they have called different offices and they've had great responses, and that everyone has been helpful and knowledgeable. So that's really great to hear. Skip, do you have anything else on your side?
No, Hope, I really appreciate you being here, and that certainly makes a lot of sense. What is the drop dead deadline on this whole thing, where you can't do it anymore? Is it the 23rd of September?
No. We are going to send mail ballots to the embassy on the 30th of September. We're also recommending that anybody that is deciding to use one of the local mail services like La Conexión,
right,
get the mail ballot. That's for those 20 states, those first 20 states. Get that back to the United States by September 30th.
Right.
That's what we're recommending. Now, each state, of course, has different deadlines for when registrations have to be, requesting ballots, and when ballots have to be in. Really, they're all over the place.
Well, a lot of ballots are already going out now, aren't they?
Yes. Some states are emailing their ballots out now. Some states in the U.S. are mailing the mail ballots now already. So yes, they are going out. But in terms of the drop dead when you can get it back, the main thing is we're trying to get those mail ballots in the mail by September 30th. Then for people that are faxing or people that can have electronic submission to the U.S., we really want to recommend that they get that done in the first 2 weeks of October. Don't wait till October 30th or October 31st or November 2nd or November 3rd. Get it done the first 2 weeks of October.
Do you have a lot of faith in email type electronic voting?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Okay.
I have and then the portals, some of the states have portals that you submit your ballot. I have faith in those.
And they're very secure.
Yes, they're secure.
Right. But that was a very interesting statistic. About 6% of the mail-ins didn't count because for the most part, they got in too late.
Yep. That's that is mainly the right reason that they do not get counted. They get there late. Yeah. Right. And and that's just about timing. That's why we're saying, get it in there. Don't wait.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have one more comment, and I think it's really important. So I want to make sure we get that answer back in. So the question is, do you have to be a registered Democrat to mail your vote via Democrats Abroad?
No. So we help everybody. We're nonpartisan. For this effort, it is a nonpartisan effort. We don't ask you who you're voting for. We don't see your ballot. We don't touch your ballot. You're going to put it in a box. Then that box is going to go to DHL. And then the ballots are going into there and going to embassy.
I have one question, Nori. Can I ask Hope?
Please.
Hi, Hope. Thank you for a great presentation. David here. Hope, this is always a question you may or may not know the answer. When does the counting of the overseas ballots begin? Is it after November 3rd, or do any states begin the counting before?
So I think there are possibly some states that might be processing their absentee ballots earlier than the election earlier than November 3rd this year. I'm going to use an example of I vote in Arkansas, and actually I'm going to be in Arkansas for the election. I'm going to vote, but I'm also contacted the election official and volunteered to help with absentee ballot canvassing, processing the absentee ballots. I've done that before. My husband and I have done this before. And they've gotten special permission to actually start 2 weeks prior to the election. It used to only be the day of the election. When I did it, I don't know, 2016, I don't know, not then, but a number of years ago, it was the day of the election. And we were all in a room and we were processing all those absentee ballots. And I guess in the last presidential election, they got permission to go a week ahead so that they could, when you open that ballot, you're seeing the declaration, you're checking that, you're checking the signatures, you're checking all these things with that ballot. And so they're going to start that process 2 weeks beforehand. So I'm hoping that that's kind of happening in many places in the US. Well, they'll be processing all these mail, getting them all ready. I don't know if they'll count them that day or on the actual election day, or they may count them right, before, but they won't make the announcement, obviously, until polls close.
Can I weigh in a little bit on that, Hope?
Yeah, please.
So every state does it differently, but one of the most important reasons to get your ballot in early is that many states start to verify your signature so that your ballot can be counted whenever they start the ballot counting. So because your signature, every voter who votes absentee, not just Uokava voters, has to have their signature guaranteed when the ballot arrives in their state. So that process of verifying signatures, if you get your ballot in early, helps speed up the ballot counting. So I think that would be another great reason to get your ballot in early.
Thank you,
That's a
Barbara.
great point. We have one other question here. Someone is asking the difference between the postcard and the ballot.
Okay, the postcard, the federal FPCA, federal postcard application, is the request for your ballot being sent absentee. It's the method in which you change your address. It's also the method that you register. So the postcard is not the ballot. The postcard is the form saying, please send me my ballot to me. Now, if you don't get your ballot, there is and it looks very similar to the postcard, is the federal write-in ballot that can be used. But almost all states require that FPCA, that first form, letting them know you're an overseas voter. Almost all of them require that being on file. So they know you're an overseas voter and that you can utilize the write-in ballot. So that's the difference. The postcard is asking for the ballot to be sent to you, not the actual ballot.
Okay. I'm pretty sure you already covered this point, but one last time. So if you were voting as an absentee voter and then you're voting in person, since there have been some problems stated around this issue, what should be the proper procedure around that?
You should call your election official and let them know you're not going to vote absentee.
But
So definitely not do both, in other words.
Yeah.
But Hope, I think the question was, if I understand this right, is that what if you already voted absentee, and now you're hearing all the noise, and you're going, oh boy, maybe I should go in person and vote again.
Barbara, do you have an answer to that question?
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do it.
Yeah, you can only vote once.
Right.
It's illegal to vote twice. It's a crime. Don't commit a crime.
Well, I was going to say it kind of
I've got an answer to that.
Uh-huh.
Who is that? Tony?
That would be Tony.
Tony, you want to go ahead and go ahead and say what you want to comment?
I never talked about it. Yeah, what you would do is if you were going to go and vote in person, you would tell them that you want to cast a provisional ballot. So you're not cheating. They would only count that ballot then if the other ballot wasn't in effect.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. Thank you, Tony. That would work.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you. Chris McCaskill.
Yes, let me make sure I'm unmuted.
Yes,
Okay.
you are.
I just want to be sure, about a week or two ago, I got a call, and I think it was from Democrats Abroad, and it was informing me about the absentee, the write-in ballot.
Mm-hmm.
And I was told that I could send in the write-in ballot as a way to hedge my bets. And then I expect to get my real ballot from the Texas election office in just a few days now, which I was advised to go ahead and send them both in, that my election office is familiar with the process and that they have a way of matching them and ruling them out. So I would hate to hear that I had broken the law.
No, you haven't broken the law by using the FWAB. What Democrats Abroad globally was very concerned about people just was very concerned about people that are in mail-in states. So they did a calling campaign throughout the world of members throughout the world to say that one option is to use the federal write-in absentee ballot. And you can do that. You can send it in. And if your ballot comes in, they throw that away. They just throw it away. They say, okay, this ballot's come in, we throw that away. Any overseas, they double check, okay, that's out. In Mexico, we weren't as concerned about that here because we have the embassy, we have these options, and we're right next to the country. We're right next to the United States, so we can get there a little bit quicker than people in Asia, people in Europe, people in India. I mean, we have members all over the globe, South America, Central America. There's some people that have a real challenge in getting ballots back. And so you can use the write-in ballot if you are registered as an overseas ballot. Like you said, you're waiting for your ballot to come. And if you have that in place, and then let's say your ballot doesn't come or you can't get it back, it's there, it's voted. But if your other ballot comes in, they get rid of it. Absolutely.
Great. One follow-up question. There should be no concern at all if I took the write-in ballot and somebody mailed it from the US a few days ago. Obviously, we wanted to speed the process of getting our write-ins in. And so several people, about 6 of our friends, when my husband went down there a week ago, they all gave their write-in ballots to him and he mailed them from, I want to say, Austin, Texas. I hope that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I hope so too. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, just you'll get your ballot on the 19th.
Yeah, we'll work with that as well.
Get it there.
Okay.
Wonderful. Well, we don't have any other questions, so I'm going to pass this on to Skip. Again, Hope, thank you so very much, and Barbara as well. And it's good to know that you guys are just a phone call away for us. And we'll see you on the 23rd as we start to drop off all of our ballots.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Good information. Thanks a lot, Hope.
You're welcome.
And everybody get out there. If you're a U.S. citizen, make sure you exercise your right to vote. It's very, very important.